Morning is Gabrielle Steele. Gabrielle grew up on a farm in Illinois and spent the first 23 years of her life in a doomsday cult. A child of the 80s, her life's path was in stark contrast to her peers and can be best described as a healthy serving of apocalyptic doom topped generously with grapes of wrath and Victorian-era sensibilities. I'm going to say it again because I had to practice and you should get the benefit. A healthy serving of apocalyptic doom topped generously with grapes of wrath and Victorian-era sensibilities. However, she would not trade her childhood with anyone and appreciates the lessons of her unique experiences have taught her. Today, she will be giving a 5 to 7 minute speech on the evaluation and feedback speech of the Leadership Development Pathway titled The Road Less Traveled. Please welcome Gabrielle Steele.
She eats her pets. My teacher launched this accusation at me, and 20 kids turned to look at me in absolute horror. I wanted to die. I was already the weird religious kid. I was already poor, and now this. In that moment when that teacher said that, I would have traded places with anyone in that school. You see, we were dirt poor. We were broke-ass broke. My parents gave 20% of their gross income to the church we belonged to, and we made up the difference with gut-busting hard work and child labor. In an era of excess and spending, we spent our weekends working just to make ends meet. We grew all our own vegetables for the year. We chopped all our own wood, and we raised livestock, our pets, and butchered them. I realize now, though, that we were farm to table before farm to table was hip. But as a kid, I picked blackberries, and I sold them in the neighborhood for extra cash. And when I was about 10 years old, I landed on the porch of the man I called Blackberry Miser, okay? My blackberries were plump. They were better than anything he was going to get in the grocery store. And I had handpicked them, delivered them to his porch, and for half the price. These blackberries were cherry. And he wanted them, but he didn't want to pay. And I'd worked hard to get them. I wasn't budging. And we went around and around and around on the price. And you know, I can't remember what was said now, but I do remember the lesson I left with that day. And the lesson was, your time has value. And I swore to myself that day that when I was older and I had control over how I spent my time, I was going to guard it carefully and spend it wisely. And what that's meant for me as an adult is I worked nights so I could stay home with my little tiny babies. I took jobs for less money so I could work from home and stay home with my little babies. And I jumped feet first into an industry I knew little about, because the work-life balance meant I could come home at 4 and see my little babies. It's also meant that I have to guard my time that's just for me and tell people no. It's been hard, but it's been oh so worth it. Now my parents, they left their church when it did this about face and suddenly embraced mainstream Christian doctrine. And the funny thing was that they didn't sever ties with the cult. They left religion entirely. One day, pork products and the Sabbath was the keys to the kingdom, and the next day, nothing. About this same time, my dad went to this local convention of people who knew stuff about aliens and government cover-ups about aliens. And we kind of laughed. We thought he was going in good fun, you know. But he came back a believer. And I watched my dad cast off 30 plus years of being among the precious few with the keys to the kingdom and replace it with being among the precious few who now knew that NASA was covering up the existence of alien glass structures on the moon. And I was going through my own personal journey at the time, and I knew what it was like to be in that cave, be isolated, be in the darkness of a cult, step out into the light and realize you're just like everybody else. And when I watched my dad go from one specialness to another, it drove home the point to me that you don't need to feel special. You need to feel connected. I'm a member of a Facebook page for survivors of the cult I was in. And it's a lot of posts about how people wish they had taken the road more traveled. If only I could have kept Christmas. If only I could have gone to prom. If only I could have eaten more bacon. Lots and lots of bacon posts. But I think when you peel back that initial layer and you look at it, that it's really a bunch of people lamenting that we weren't connected. I wouldn't trade places with anyone now. My path was hard, but I learned a lot of lessons along the way that I carry with me, and they're precious to me. I learned that my time is very valuable, and I spend it making connections with people that matter to me. I took the road less traveled, but it's made all the difference.